Talk a little bit about this. Early voting has started in the great state of Texas, and as it turns out, Houston is smashing early voting records. The President of the United States was there in the Toyota Center last night. Man, oh man, he was on fire. You saw it here on Fox. One of the things he unveiled was that 10% middle-class tax cut. Didn't have a lot of details. Of course, Congress is not in session, but that's one of the things he was talking about last night.
It was a packed house. There were 18,000 people there, and he walked out on stage, and Ted Cruz just kind of stepped aside because it's the President of the United States, and they were all so excited to be there. And he said, you know, Ted and I are good friends now.
Yeah.
We had a nasty rivalry.
And the thing is, why does people find this so hard to believe? Because, you know, boxers, it was brutal at it. They fight each other for 12, 15 rounds. They used to do 15. And at the end, they hug. Now it's the hug. Let's listen to Ted and a little Don.
It's true what they say. Everything in Texas is just bigger. The people of Texas are going to re-elect a man who has become a really good friend of mine. You know, we had our little difficulties, right? But actually, if you remember, the beginning, it was a love fest. Nobody has helped me more with your tax cuts, with your regulation, with all of the things that we're doing. You know, what's happening right now as a large group of people, they call it a caravan. That is an assault on our country. This will be the election of the caravan, Kavanaugh, law and order, tax cuts, and common sense. Today's Democrat Party would rather protect criminal aliens than American citizens, which is why the Democrats must be voted out of office. The Democrats want to replace freedom with socialism. And they want to replace the rule of law with the rule of the mob. Democrats produce mobs. Republicans produce jobs. In this election, you can send a message to the radical Democrats: don't mess with Texas.
Right, and he's Texas Ted now. He also has a new nickname.
Beautiful Ted.
Beautiful Ted and
the
Texas
beautiful
Ted.
wall and beautiful Ted.
But I also think it was good. He went after the rock star on the left, and that is Beto O'Rourke, who's got a lot of charisma, a lot of presence. He calls him overrated O'Rourke.
He said he was a stone cold phony.
He said he doesn't use his real name. Beto's not his real name. I think Robert's his real name. He said, what kind of guy would use Beto? He said he was a radical. He wants open borders. He's a socialist as far as health care is concerned, and he wants to take away your guns.
And one other thing Ted Cruz predicted, in 2020, Donald Trump will be overwhelmingly re-elected president of the United States.
I heard that Ted Cruz was actually, the president approached him and said, hey, do you want to be a Supreme Court justice? Do you want to be a contender? And he said, no, I'm pretty happy now.
So a lot going on in Texas. Also, the president said that he thought the caravan could have been paid for by Democrats. He said had something to do with it. Now it was a big mistake. And
yeah.
Speaking of the caravan, a Fox News alert.
That caravan growing to a mile long as it's heading straight up to our border.
And we got about 1,000 miles to go until they get here. But U.S. agents are already dealing with criminals knowingly breaking the law. And I say knowingly because it was in bold.
Griff Jenkins is live once again this morning in McAllen, Texas, where he's seen those border busts firsthand. Griff?
Good morning, guys. That's right. The caravan, 7,000 strong, is headed this way. They're about 1,140 miles due south of McAllen. This is the closest, nearest port of entry that they could cross. They haven't said where they're going to go. California, Arizona are here, but this would be the shortest route, and that's why so many Hondurans, Guatemalans, and El Salvadorans come here. But unfortunately, most come illegally. Yesterday, we laid in the bushes and wait, and we busted one of those smuggling operations. Watch. We've been hiding in the bushes waiting to witness one of these crossings. Let's go. They're coming right now. You can see they've come in. They've got a family in a raft. Excuse me, sir. Were you trying to cross into America illegally? So what we're witnessing now is clearly a family that was being brought over by that smuggler that was paddling in the raft. This is an attempt to illegally cross, and they've gone back over there. We've seemed to have foiled this attempt, but officials tell us that he's probably just going to look for another spot. You know, it's a legal crossing?
Yes.
Yes? But you came anyway?
Why?
Why did you come, is what I'm asking you. Can you tell me why you came illegally?
The situation of Honduras.
You're in Honduras? You're from Honduras?
Yes.
What are the conditions there?
You could not have work in there because the criminals always will get your money.
But they're not all women and children. In the last 48 hours, a man wanted for murder in South Carolina was arrested here, along with another member of the 18th Street violent gang. Guys?
What a story. Your heart goes out to them. And there is a situation where we allow refugees into the country, Griff. There's just got to be an order and a method and a practice to practice. You can't just have random people coming across, but way to highlight the human aspect.
Yeah, well, as Griff was saying, there's a mixture of people in the group. There are moms, there are kids, but there are also some criminals, as proven, because there have been some arrests. There's some deportees that used to live here that are in the group, and some of them were interviewed by reporters. Right. One guy is Joe Breas. He's 36 years old, spent his teenage years in California, grew up there. His visa expired 14 years ago, so he went back to Guatemala. He said, it's time for me to go back to the United States. Right. It's a country where I can live my life, unlike Guatemala. He's in the group trying to get back in.
Right. Washington Post has got an item this morning about how a lot of the people in the caravan have been deported many times from the United States. Most of them that talked to the Post left not of their own volition, but were hauled out. Imner Fuentes was deported 6 times, and he keeps coming back for jobs because he's able to go through the border. The Post talked to some people. Some will apply for asylum, but most of the migrants are not planning to apply for asylum. They hope to slip across the border illegally. The vast majority of the caravan not applying for refugee status in Mexico because they're worried they would be detained or deported. So Mexico said, okay, you can proceed, you can stay here in Mexico, but you got to apply. The migrants don't want to because they're afraid, you know, if they're on the registry, they're going to send them back home. And when they come to our border, they're not going to stop at the border crossing. They're going to try to slip across.
Like the guy you were talking about, Imner Fuentes. He's 29 years old. He's been deported 6 times, as you were saying. So he keeps doing this. And he said they catch you, and you just try to go back and do it all over again. Another guy said, when I heard about the caravan, I knew it was my chance.
Right. And the thing is, I don't know how this stand-up's going to play out because you got 1,000 people coming up, and then you have our guys on the border. Oh, man, this could be ugly. Meanwhile, let's talk about the midterms. For the longest time, it seems like it was going to be ugly for the Republicans. After all, history says it would. The party in power usually takes a shellacking. But almost nobody, including Democrats, are calling for a blue wave. Watch.
We always knew that this election was going to be close. I don't use the term blue wave. I always talk about the need for the blocking and tackling. Well, I don't think the Democratic advantage has ebbed.
You know, I know a lot of people talk about this blue wave and all that stuff. I don't believe it. I happen to think that on election night, you're going to find a very, very close situation, and it may be a handful of votes determining whether Democrats gain control of the House and that we have an entity able to stand up to Trump, or we don't.
Nancy Pelosi wasn't listening to that because she's calling it a Democratic tsunami, even bigger than a wave.
She's guaranteed she's going to be Speaker.
If that works out for her. Meanwhile, NBC analyzed a lot of the early voting data from 7 close states. And as it turns out, Republican voters are outpacing Democratic voters in most of them. In Arizona, in Florida, in Georgia, in Indiana, Montana, Tennessee, and Texas. Republicans are outvoting the Democrats in early voting, only in Nevada, where Democratic voters exceeded Republican voters in the early voting. And, of course, key Senate races in 6 of those, or rather in 7 of those 8 states.
So that blue wave is turning purple. The president last night at the rally said, you know what, if any of y'all haven't voted because you have early voting in Texas, why don't you get up right now and go vote?
And I know the president was pumped for that rally because you saw on his Twitter feed that he was getting shots of the audience building and the lines growing, and he was tweeting this out. Hey, Texas, I'm coming. Thanks so much for waiting. They were waiting for 24 hours, and it was a big crowd out there.
He has a Wisconsin rally this week. He has a Charlotte, North Carolina rally this week, and he has an Illinois rally.
Busy, busy. And in the meantime, speaking of the midterms, 2 weeks from today, Democrats have got to figure out some sort of an answer to the president's message, which is, you see this caravan coming toward us? That's because the Democrats will not work with Republicans in fixing our immigration status. And so the Democrats haven't said anything about that, the top ones, because they want to remain focused, laser-like on health care. That's what they think is a winning issue. But at the same time, you see those thousands of people heading our way. What are the Democrats going to say?
Do you remember when the oil was leaking in Texas and both Republicans and Democrats were calling on Barack Obama to do something? I thought we would rally around to stop this caravan on Democrats and Republicans the same way. I just don't see how it's in our national interest to allow 7,000 people to storm our border. Why would anybody be high-fiving that situation?
Because it's a lose-lose for Democrats. If they talk about it, then the stats and the polls have showed, don't mention open borders, don't talk about it because it's not a favorable thing for the Democrats or for your voters. But at the same time, if they say then they don't want them in, then they're accused of wanting to separate families and all of that. So it's lose-lose for them.
All right. Meanwhile, a Republican, Florida Governor Rick Scott, is hoping to flip Bill Sennett's Senate seat down in Florida. He's got 2 weeks left to do it. How's he feeling? Ainsley's going to talk to the governor next.
Plus, what did the voters think of President Trump's rally last night? Pete Hegseth is having breakfast with friends at the House of Pies in Houston.
Early for a pie.
Hey, baby, I'm a country man.
With just 2 weeks until the midterms, it is a tight race down in the state of Florida. The latest Real Clear Politics average, an average of all the polls, now has Democratic Senator Bill Nelson ahead of the GOP Governor Rick Scott by just 3 points, so essentially neck and neck. Governor Rick Scott joins us now. Good morning to you, Governor. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Ainsley. I'm heading back out to 3 impacted counties in the Panhandle today. We still have 60,000 people without power. This hurricane was like a gigantic tornado with 14-foot storm surge that just decimated our Panhandle. So right now I'm continuing to try to help people get their power back, get their cell phone service back, make sure they help rebuild their houses. We've got over 70,000 people have already signed up for FEMA, and we're trying to work with organized state, federal, and local resources to make sure we keep helping these families.
What's your mindset when it comes to helping those hurricane victim families? Because you've got Senator Bill Nelson who can go out there and campaign right now while you're the governor. You have to be on the ground helping those families. Does he have an advantage because of that, or can your response to this help you?
Well, the way I think about it, Ainsley, is I grew up in a very poor family in the Midwest, and I remember my mom, a single mom, what would she want if this happened where she was living, if a tornado came through? And that's what I think about. I think about all those families, and so I want to make sure they have food and water, a tarp to cover their house. They get FEMA benefits. They get back to work, get their companies open. That's what I think about. Now, my opponent is just fascinating. He said he did a couple photo ops right after it happened, and he said, "Oh, there's nothing else I can do. I'm going to go back and campaign. If you need me, just give me a call." Look, it's FEMA. It's a federal response organization. He could be helpful with that. He could be helpful with Tyndall. Tyndall was decimated. Think about it. That's probably over 20,000 jobs. Just that, 11,000 people all working on Tyndall, all those families, and he just turns his back to him, says, "Oh, I'm not worried about you." He's worried. Bill Nelson is worried about one person's job, his job. So I'm going to keep doing this. My wife's on the campaign trail. Not something she wanted to do. I told her I wanted to run for governor 8 years ago. She said, "That's great. I'm scared of giving public speeches." But that's what she's doing every day now. So I feel sorry for her.
Helping you. All right, let's talk about some of the issues, because you are behind in the polls just by 3 points. But Bill Nelson, his main drivers of his lead apparently are women, blacks, Hispanics, independent voters. What do you say to that group of individuals?
Sure. We will win for this reason. It's going to be, who cares about you? It's going to be, do you want to elect somebody like Senator Nelson, who's been in office for 42 years and done nothing? Or do you want to elect somebody like Rick Scott that will show up and do his job? Do you care about a job? We've added 1.6 million jobs since I got elected. Do you care about education, record education funding? Do you care about the environment, record environmental funding? Senator Nelson has done nothing for the environment other than run an ad.
All right. Well, I know. Congratulations on the job gains. Yesterday, we were reporting different states, and yours. So this September compared to last September, 407,000 gains in that month alone. You said 1.6 since you've taken office. I know people there are worried about the algae and that red tide and the environment and immigration. So where can people find more information about you if they're undecided?
go to scottforflorida.com.
Okay.
We're going to get everybody out to vote.
All right.
I know our team's going to do
Governor,
it.
we got to
We'll have
go.
a big
Thank
win.
you so much. We did invite Senator Bill Nelson, and he declined.
Good morning. We're back with a Fox News alert. Panic at the University of Utah overnight after a student is shot and killed on campus. The university going on lockdown as police searched the massive campus for the shooter. The suspect, Melvin Rowland, found dead after shooting himself inside a church off campus. Police believe Rowland, a registered sex offender, was the victim's ex-boyfriend. He was not a student at the university. Another story breaking right now. Turkish President Erdogan praising the Saudis for admitting Jamal Khashoggi's death, but demanding action.
And now our expectation from them going forward is that all those responsible from the highest degree, highest level to the lowest level will be highlighted, will be brought to justice.
In a speech to the Turkish parliament moments ago, Erdogan vowed a vigilant investigation of what he calls a savage murder. He said they're looking into possible local co-conspirators. CIA Director Gina Haspel has reportedly flown to Turkey as the U.S. seeks its own answers. And moments ago, the Kremlin announcing it does not support President Trump's decision to pull out of the nuclear arms treaty. National Security Advisor John Bolton is in Moscow right now. In just a few hours, he'll meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Former President Ronald Reagan and Soviet President Gorbachev signed the INF Treaty back in 1987, banning the U.S. and Russia from building and testing nuclear cruise missiles. Let's look at your headlines. Steve, send it to you.
All right, Jillian, thank you. To help combat the misuse and abuse of opioids, the DEA has created the National Prescription Take-Back Day to provide a safe option to dispose of unused, expired, or unwanted prescription drugs. Now, in its 9th year, this Take-Back Day has already helped remove 9.9 million pounds of medications from circulation. Since the CDC estimates that 70,000 people in the United States died from drug overdoses last year. Joining us right now, just days ahead of the next Take-Back Day, is Acting Administrator of the DEA, Uttam Dillon. Mr. Dillon, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, why do we need Take-Back Day?
We need a National Drug Take-Back Day because it's important to clean out our medicine cabinets of unused, unwanted, and expired prescription drugs, because that's one of the ways Americans actually become addicted to drugs, the drugs in their medicine cabinet. So we started Take-Back Day to get those drugs out of the medicine cabinets where Americans can take them to collection facilities where they can be securely and safely disposed of.
Because you bring up where they can be safely disposed of because, you know, a lot of people, they just think, you know what, I'm just going to flush those down the toilet. Next thing you know, that's in our water.
That pollutes the water supply, and that's one of the reasons we started the National Drug Take-Back Day.
One of the other reasons that this is important is just the fact that when people have drugs left in their cabinet, you know, they might think, you know, I had a little operation, I might need that Vicodin someday in the future. They never get around to it, but somebody goes poking around. Next thing you know, they're doing something with your Vicodin.
That's exactly right. Family members, friends who have access to your medicine cabinet, to your home, could take those drugs and could actually become addicted to those painkillers. And that's been one of the reasons we're facing the opioid crisis we're facing today.
All right, so you've got a couple of good reasons why people should take part. How do we figure out where to take the drugs to? DEATakeback.com.
If you go to DEATakeback.com, you'll find locations all across the country. We have over 5,000 collection sites around the country with over 4,000 state and local law enforcement agencies assisting us at those collection sites. You'll find a collection site near you.
Sure. And so when you do that, you know, some people might think, well, can I keep the little jar so they don't know my name, what I was taking?
It's completely anonymous. The answer is yes, you can keep the jar. You can place the medications into a bag, whatever makes you comfortable. But if you give us the entire package also, it's totally anonymous. The goal here is just to collect the medications and to destroy them in a safe and secure way.
Now, you have one in the spring. The one for the fall is coming up very shortly. Why do you do it twice a year?
Well, we found that twice a year is necessary. In the spring, we took in over 900,000 pounds of medications. It's been growing every single year. So this Saturday, October 27th, from 10 to 2, we're hoping to at least match the amount we received in the spring.
And one of the things, there's such You know, so many people are talking about opioids these days, and people don't realize, I've got those in my medicine chest. It's time to get rid of them.
It's absolutely time to get rid of them. If you don't need them, if they're unwanted, if they're expired, there's just no reason to keep them. Go to DEATakeback.com and find a collection location near you.
All right, you did exactly the plug, or you could call 800-882-9539. That's 800-882-9539. Uttam Dillon, acting administrator of the DEA, thank you very much for joining us live.
Thank you.
Okay. This is so important to do, folks, because 70,000 people in the United States died from drug overdoses last year. You don't need the pills anymore. If you're not using them, go ahead and take them back. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. 6:30 now here in New York City. The video is terrifying. A man smashing the front door, then breaking into our Fox affiliate in Washington, D.C. I used to work in that building. What we've learned about him coming up live next. Plus, Pete Hegseth is having breakfast with friends in Texas after President Trump's rally. Pete's at the Pie Palace. Hey, Pete.
That's right, Steve. I kind of disagree. It's never too early for pie. Certainly at the House of Pies as well. We're on Kirby Drive here in Houston, so if you're in Houston, come on out to House of Pies. We're talking to the folks all morning long, but last night I was inside the Trump rally. Also on the overflow after the Trump rally here in Houston, it was where the Houston Rockets play. Talking to the people about why they waited so long in line to see this president and whether they love him more today than they did on Election Day. We'll bring that answer to you on the other side. Annalie Pine.
If this ain't heaven, it's halfway.
Business is now good. They're coming back. The jobs are coming back. The plants and factories are coming back like never before. They're all coming back. This is for middle-income people, all middle-income people, a big tax cut, 10%. We'll be putting it in next week.
Well, we've heard it was coming, and last night the president gave a preview, a 10% middle-class tax cut announced just 2 weeks and 1 day before the midterm.
I think it might have taken the speaker by surprise. I'm not too sure Congress knew about it.
Not a lot of details involved.
There were 18,000 people at that rally last night. That's only included the people who were inside. There were big screens. There was live music and food carts outside. Lots of people watching on the big screens. Pete Hegseth, he got on a plane. He wanted to go to Houston. He's talking to the folks at the House of Pies. What'd they think of the rally last night?
Well, a lot of folks, either if they weren't able to get in, they watched it on TV. And it's true. They say that everything is bigger in Texas. And I can confirm last night when we were inside that arena where the Houston Rockets normally play, it was packed with red hats and thousands of people who could not otherwise get in. And when we were looking to talk to people outside, it wasn't difficult. I mean, the lines were streaming. What I found so interesting is the energy was as high as I've ever seen it. It was a diverse group. And we're talking men, women, Hispanics, Asians, black, whites. I mean, it wasn't just the traditional old white guys. A very informed crowd, too. They know those issues. So they were passionate about talking to us about the president. Here's some of what the folks said before and after the rally. Listen.
That's not going to be a red wave. It's going to be a red tsunami.
And why do you think so?
Hello, you're in Texas.
We're here to support President Trump. We elected him. We put our hopes in him, and he is delivering, and he's going to keep delivering.
You're a Hispanic woman, so you're not supposed to like this president.
Wrong. There's a lot of us out there.
My parents came here from Mexico, and they came here legally, so I don't think it's fair for all these people to be coming in and just automatically say, hey, you're a citizen. I'm from Iran.
You're from Iran?
Yes, Donald Trump support my country, Iran, and support the people in the United States from Iran because we escaped from Iran.
I'm originally from Nigeria, but I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. We cannot have open borders that everybody can run into the country.
Did you vote for the president?
Yes, I did, and I'm voting for him again in 2020.
At the end of the day, everybody comes together. That's exactly what Ted Cruz did. That's exactly what Donald Trump did. We're all on the same team now. We're all going to win in November, and that's the important thing.
A lot of optimism there, absolutely. I'm also here with, we're going to talk to one folk, and we're going to get to more in the hours coming up as well here at House of Pies on Kirby Drive in Houston, so come on out if you're watching this. This is Steven. Steven, you're a small business owner. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, we love being here. You had a ticket last night, but ultimately weren't able to get there and wait that long in line to get in because some people were waiting hours and hours and hours. But you did watch it on TV. Your biggest takeaway of the president's speech last night?
Well, the enthusiasm of the crowd and him, and he stirred them up greatly. I mean, it was very impressive. And the idea that, you know, he seems to be following through with everything he said, and I'm 110% behind him and wish I could do more.
What's the issue briefly that you're most passionate about?
Mainly the economy and this issue about the border. I think that my situation on the, how to solve that border issue is a little bit more radical than most, but we've got to protect our borders. We have to save it.
Guys, I mean, thank you very much, Stephen. Sorry, they're telling me I gotta wrap up. Appreciate your time. You know, Kavanaugh and the caravan and immigration, heard from almost every single person one of those three issues last night, guys.
All right, Pete Hegseth at the House of Pies. What time do they start serving pie, by the way?
24 hours, guys. 24 hours. I just had to buy you goo.
They don't own keys. Another diner that doesn't lock the door.
That's right. They never lock it. You're welcome anytime.
All right. It's 5:30 there, so it'll start to.
And by the way, Pete, your
busy.
timesheet is going to be packed with money, right? He worked late at night, up early in the morning. I mean, this hourly thing is not working out for the company.
Little OT. All right, 22 minutes now before the top of the hour on this very busy Tuesday, and Jillian's got some headlines.
And that's right. Good morning. And the number of cases in the outbreak of a polio-like illness is on the rise. The CDC says they are currently investigating 155 cases of acute flaccid myelitis. That's a 22% spike in the last week. 62 cases have been confirmed by the CDC in 22 states. The serious but rare condition can cause paralysis, affecting mostly young kids. There is currently no cure. Terrifying surveillance video showing a man breaking into a Fox affiliate station in Washington, D.C. George Odem smashing the front entrance's glass door. Police shooting him in the chest. He is in critical but stable condition. Luckily, no employees were hurt. Odems is no stranger to police. Court records show he was actually charged with murder in 2002, but the case was dismissed. He has also threatened cops and Fox executives in the past. The Democratic candidate for Georgia governor making headlines for her role in a state flag burning protest. This photo from 1992 in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution now re-emerging. Stacey Abrams, a freshman in college at the time, seen third from left. Her campaign says it was a protest against the Confederate symbol in the state flag. Officials eventually abolishing the emblem a decade later. Abrams and her Republican opponent, Secretary of State Brian Kemp, will face off in their first debate tonight. So look at your headlines. Send it back downstairs to you.
I've got a feeling that's going to come up in the debate.
I think so.
Yep, back to 1992 when Janice Dean was in the 6th grade.
And now she's outside with some of the folks on this chilly Tuesday.
I don't know if that's good, or I think it might be good, actually, Brian. Thank you. By the way, these folks here are from Massapequa. Did you go to school with Brian?
Yes, I did.
Will you tell me some stories?
Sure.
Excellent.
At another time.
All right, perfect. Let's go to the maps. They're here for Brian Kilmeade. We do have a hurricane we want to tell you about that's going to make landfall across Mexico. This is Category 4. It's weakening as it makes impact, but we're still looking at the potential for catastrophic damage over the Pacific coast of Mexico. And then that moisture, unfortunately, is going to go into Texas. Flooding rainfall for areas that have been saturated by weeks of rain. So that's going to be a big story eventually moving across the Gulf Coast. Okay, these folks are going to tell me all about Brian back in the high school days. In the commercial break. Back to you.
Right. Everyone dates back to Massapequa.
Yes.
Even the rhinoceros.
Everyone.
The T-Rex. Everything. Everything started in Massapequa.
All right, JD, thank you very
Janice,
much.
find out some stories and share them with us, please. All right. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, Congresswoman Mia Love, Anthony Scaramucci, and National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow. They're all here live this morning.
But enough about them. What about this? Nancy Pelosi reveals how she would negotiate with President Trump if Democrats take back the Congress. I'll stop now.
A subpoena power is interesting. To use it or not to use it. It's a great arrow to have in your quiver.
Well, that really...
The Democrats have launched an assault on the sovereignty of our country, the security of our nation, and the safety of every single American.
It is Tuesday, October 23rd. A Fox News alert. The president rallying a rowdy crowd in Texas, vowing to secure the southern border.
We are live from the Lone Star State with the latest on that massive migrant march as well. Also bracing for impact, the monster storm about to hit Mexico that has Texans on high alert.
We're tracking Hurricane Willa's every move. And who kicked off our booming economy? Some say former President Barack Obama is to thank.
When you hear all this talk about economic miracles right now, remember who started it.
Fox and Friends First continues right now. Happy Tuesday morning to you. And we are 2 weeks away from the midterm elections, and you can certainly tell with all the campaign events happening all around the country. The president's been very busy.
And the
former
crowd
President Obama.
in Texas.
Like 20,000, something like that.
We're going to talk more about that in a little bit.
We absolutely will. Happy Tuesday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for watching Fox and Friends First.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thank you for watching, as you said, and starting your day with us.
There you go. Overnight, I guess it's my turn to read.
It is.
Overnight, the president using his Houston rally as a way to slam the migrant caravan.
Now it's my turn. He's also vowing to send as many troops as necessary to stop it.
That is an assault on our country. And in that caravan, you have some very bad people. We have to protect our borders. We don't have borders. We don't have a country. I think the Democrats had something to do with it. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally, and they have to come in through merit,
That caravan growing to a mile long as it heads straight for our border, but U.S. agents are already dealing with criminals knowingly breaking the law.
Griff Jenkins is live in McAllen, Texas, and he's been seeing some of those busts at the border firsthand. Good morning, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Jillian, good morning. That's right. That caravan, now over 7,000 strong, is about 1,100 miles due south of where I'm standing in McAllen. McAllen, Texas is the closest port of entry that they would possibly come and cross. It would take them about 2 weeks, but the majority of Honduran, Guatemalan, and El Salvadoran migrants that cross illegally do so here in this area because it is so close to them as opposed to Arizona or California. Now, yesterday, we lied in wait in the bushes, actually, with the Border Patrol agents as smugglers came across the river, and we talked to some of the Hondurans that came across illegally. Take a look. You know, it's a legal crossing?
Yes.
Yes? But you came anyway?
Why?
Well, why did you come, is what I'm asking you. Can you tell me why you came illegally?
The situation of Honduras.
You're in Honduras? You're from Honduras?
Yes.
What are the conditions there?
You could not have work in there because the criminals always will get your money. But they're not all women and children. In the last 48 hours, officials here in McAllen have also arrested a man that is wanted for murder in South Carolina, as well as another man who is an active member of the 18th Street violent gang. And guys, you know, the big question with officials are saying here is what they're going to do if that 7,000 strong caravan gets up here. The last caravan several months ago that was similar to this, the same group, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, People Without Borders, came to California, but they were just over 1,000 when they started, and only a few hundred crossed. This is a much larger thing. Rob, Jillian?
A lot of questions still and a lot of help needed down at the border. Thanks, Griff.
Griff, thanks so much. The caravan, as Griff just said, is growing larger every day, about a mile long at this point, and at this point is refusing to obey any immigration laws.
Tucson Border Patrol President Art Del Cueto saying this looks more like an invasion than migration.
These individuals are not immigrants. These are people that are invading our country. My family, my ancestors are immigrants. These people are trying to enter the United States by force. You've seen the way, the pictures, you've seen the video. When you are kicking down gates to get into a country, when you are entering illegally, when you're trying to avoid inspection, and also when you are waving the flag of the country that supposedly has you so oppressed, how is that something that's beneficial for the United States. It isn't. These individuals, I've said it before many times, there is a humongous difference between knocking on my front door or kicking my front door and forcing entry into my home. It needs to stop, and we need to do the right measures to go out there and stop it.
The president has called the caravan a matter of national emergency.
Campaign enemies to friends on the trail. President Trump praising newly named Texas Ted Cruz in front of a huge crowd in Houston while slamming his Democratic challenger, Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, this was something to see them embrace. Doug Luzader live in Washington with highlights from the big Texas tailgate. Had some bizarre moments there, Doug.
Good morning. Well, the president is pulling out all the stops to try to save Republican control of Congress, even if it means campaigning with someone that he once called a liar. The president was in Houston last night to campaign for Texas Senator Ted Cruz, no longer calling him Lion Ted. Now he's Texas Ted. They have put the bitter 2016 Republican primary behind them. And the president really went after Cruz's opponent, Congressman Beto O'Rourke, calling him a stone-cold phony and taking on an issue that Democrats are really seizing upon right now, health care.
The Democrats want to give illegal aliens free welfare and the right to vote. That's why Democrats want to abolish ICE. O'Rourke supports a socialist takeover of health care. You're going to triple your taxes, and it won't be enough. Ted is leading the charge in Congress for more tax cuts. In fact, on the Second Amendment, I'm for it. Beto's against it.
If you want a big government gun-grabbing liberal, well, the Democrats are giving you one.
And for Cruz's part, he predicted that the president would be overwhelmingly reelected in 2020. Rob and Jillian.
All right, Doug, thank you so much. Memorial services are beginning today for an officer killed in the line of duty. Officer Antoine Toney set to be honored in Georgia after being killed over the weekend. He'll be laid to rest tomorrow. Police tracking down Tafari Maynard, the man suspected of killing Officer Toney. He was shot and killed after being found hiding in a shed with an edged weapon, police say. Also in South Carolina, Sheriff's Deputy Farrah Turner has now died just over 2 weeks after an ambush shooting that left a second officer dead and 5 others injured. She is the 43rd officer shot and killed in the line of duty just this year.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman overnight. The two discussing both nations' financial relationship amid an international mystery surrounding Jamal Khashoggi. Meantime, CIA Director Gina Haspel reportedly flying to Turkey as new details are expected in the investigation.
We will know very soon. We have tremendously talented people that do this stuff very well. I am not satisfied with what I've heard.
Turkish President Erdogan says he's revealing, quote, the naked truth today. The Saudis have admitted Khashoggi died inside their Istanbul consulate, claiming it happened during a fight.
The FBI investigating after an explosive device is found at billionaire George Soros' home. An employee at the house in New York discovering a suspicious package inside the mailbox, throwing it into the woods until police arrived. Authorities safely blowing up that device, saying there's no longer a threat to the public. Nobody was hurt. Soros was not home at the time. This all according to the New York Times.
Final preps underway at Fenway Park before Game 1 of the World Series. The Boston Red Sox looking for their first championship since 2013, while the Los Angeles Dodgers are hoping for their first since 1988. First pitch for Game 1 of the best-of-7 series set for just after 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Every game can be seen on Fox. I feel like it's just always a party in Boston. Like so many of their teams have been in championships over the years.
These last few years, they've been doing really good.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. 9 minutes after the hour, Republicans targeted again. This time, vandals caught on camera throwing a giant boulder right into a congressman's office.
As the caravan, and look, that is an assault on our country. That's an assault.
President Trump railing against the left, vowing to take action as thousands of migrants march toward the border. Army Dillon says it is an invasion, and she is here live. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning. How are you? Good
morning.
I got one less problem without you. I got one less problem without you.
I'm willing to send the military to defend our southern border if necessary. All caused because of the illegal immigration onslaught brought by the Democrats.
All right, President Trump calling the migrant caravan an assault on our country, and he vows to send as many U.S. troops to the border as necessary to keep them out.
Army Dillon, RNC committee woman for California, says the caravan is a foreign invasion, and she joins us now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So why do you say it's an invasion?
Well, first of all, it's a large number of people heading towards our border without our permission, with an intention that seems to be hostile and against what our laws permit. So I think by any reasonable definition, that's an invasion, and we can't permit that.
The president says that this is a lot of this caravan is MS-13. He's also said that there are Middle Eastern type terrorists involved in this group. He said that there was not